Good afternoon. I'm really pleased to have the opportunity this afternoon to introduce Pam Minden as the next inductee to the Healthcare Hall of Fame. Pam and I have known each other and worked together since 2003 when she was a business unit director and I was an HR leader at Johnson & Johnson. And when she asked me if I would introduce her for this award today, my first thought was that I was very honored, and my second thought was, I'm an executive coach. This is a great opportunity to do a leadership 360. So I reached out to a variety of people that have worked with Pam over the years, and I just want to share with you some of the things that I heard back about her. So first of all, from Robin Flamer, who started her career together with Pam in sales at Eli Lilly. And she also said that at that time they were newly minted product managers, full of enthusiasm and passion. And Robin's quote was, "Pam is one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. So while half the time I'm not entirely sure what she's talking about, I've learned to trust her instincts. She throws her whole self into everything she does. I remember seeing her lead a kickoff meeting, admiring her passion and how it infected the group with the enthusiasm and confidence to succeed in the campaign." From Brad McCaw, who was a sales manager in Pam's team, "My first impression of Pamela was that she was incredibly business savvy with a keen focus on achieving results and asking very challenging questions. To a new manager like me, she was what I called tough, yet she always had time to work through challenges together, never looking to find faults, rather looking to extract the best of those around her. Over the years, I've collaborated with Pam in various roles within the biotechnology sector. Every time I learned something more about myself and my abilities, because Pam always wanted to challenge the status quo and make all of us look at the business through different eyes." From Peggy Ahern, who's been a supplier of Pam's for a number of years, "Pam and I really work together well. She's very strategic, very collaborative. She has successfully launched new products and led teams across very different therapeutic areas, from orthobiotech through to Aspen. She immerses herself, becomes very proficient. And as a leader, I knew people on her team, and they both liked and respected her, and I know as a leader myself how hard that is to do." From Chris Halleck, the president of Janssen, who Pam reported to for many years, "She is passionate, she cares about her people, and she truly understood the marketplaces in which she competed. But more importantly, she was a great collaborator across everyone in the organization, and she really set the standard for how, by having everyone work together, we can succeed so much more, both from a business standpoint and from making a difference for patients." And then last, from Tracy Ramsey, who is currently a head in the North American business at Sanofi, "Pam has been a trusted colleague, mentor, and friend for the last 10 years. I had the privilege to see Pam's leadership impact when we worked together at J&J, and Pam established their new product development capability, more recently through her launch of Minden Bioscience. Her intellectual curiosity, business acumen, and entrepreneurial spirit has an uncanny ability to find strategic clarity and success. Pam has always been a role model to me, both in her personal life and professional career. My favorite Pam quote, of which there are many, is, 'You can have it all, you just can't have it all on the same day.'" So I'm sure you're all hearing some of the same themes I heard when I gathered this information about Pam. Let me add a couple of thoughts from my own perspective. I think there are some things that you can count on when you work with her that are hallmarks of what her career has been so far. She will always take the high road. Her ethics are not negotiable. Her strategies will always be fact and data driven. She will give you her insights straight up. You'll always know what her opinion is. And I also learned that Pam sees success in her career in the context of success overall in her life. And I remember when she was thinking about leaving J&J to start her own consulting business, we were talking about it, and she said to me, "Brenda, I'm not walking away from my career. I just want to do it differently." And Pam, I think receiving this award today is a real proof that you've been able to achieve that. So please join me in congratulating Pamela Minden.
Thank you, Brenda. She might have just done a 180. So what ordinary, rational person could ever imagine that he or she would be inducted into any kind of Hall of Fame, let alone one as prestigious as this? Having my name appear on the same list as the incredible inductees of years past, together with my 6 distinguished and deserving co-inductees, is really a tremendous honor. I am deeply moved and grateful, and honestly, I'm more than a bit overwhelmed. But the icing on the cake is my husband and my kids now have to call me a Hall of Famer. As I tried to put some thoughts together for today's event, I found myself reflecting on those men and women who've influenced and motivated me. The physician and philosopher, writer and theologian Dr. Albert Schweitzer framed this probably about as well as anyone could, and he wrote, and I quote, "At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us." Close quote. Many people in our industry, including some in this room, have trained, mentored, and guided me. I have learned so much from them, and I think of them often. Not infrequently, when faced with a tough problem or a tough decision about what course to follow, I think, what would he say? What would she do? And sometimes, who should I call for some sound advice about this situation? We are fortunate to have colleagues in this business who are not only very experienced, but also approachable and generous with their time. The default position invariably is, how can I help? We're also fortunate as well to have so many upon whose judgment we can rely. There is a second category of people that, for me at least, rekindles the spark and lights the flame. And I'm speaking, of course, about our end users, the patients. To paraphrase Dr. Schweitzer, each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of our patients, especially when they help guide us towards a solution or let us know that we really can and do make a difference. Put simply, I really believe this is why we do what we do. So let me share with you 3 brief vignettes that I think will illustrate my theme. The first occurred about 2 decades ago. I was part of a team preparing for the launch of Humalog, the first short-acting insulin analog. And in what was then an unusual step, we engaged in some market research involving patients. And a 16 or 17-year-old boy, I'll call him Ken, was participating in the research. And at one point during the interview, I noticed that Ken appeared to become quite emotional and teary. And even back then, I knew that this kind of outward display of emotion was most unusual for a teenage boy. So in an effort to see if Ken was feeling well enough to continue, the interviewer asked him if everything was okay. "I'm fine," he insisted. "It's a bit tough for me to explain." He said, "Put it this way. I've never been able to have a snack after dinner. Never." He said, "Now, because of this drug, for the first time in my life, I can go out for late-night pizza or have a piece of birthday cake at a friend's party. I wasn't sure that was ever going to happen." The second vignette I'd like to share with you occurred about 10 years ago. A well-known Canadian artist and HIV community activist named Tico Kerr invited my team to an exhibition of his paintings. Our team was working on the launch of Prazista, and the backdrop to the exhibition was this. In 2005, Tico Kerr found himself at a crossroads. His HIV had become resistant to the antiretrovirals he had been taking since the mid-1980s. And without a new treatment for resistant virus, he would develop full-blown AIDS and die. Through some intense pressure and advocacy by Tico and his physician, he was able to gain early access to Prazista. He commenced treatment, and not long after, his viral load became undetectable. One of Tico's paintings on exhibit was inspired by his almost unfathomable journey with HIV. Tico approached me that evening at the gallery and said, "Thank you for saving my life." Tico knew that I hadn't saved his life. The credit was due to the incredibly gifted scientists who developed the drug and to the dedicated, irrepressible clinician and researcher who happened to be standing right beside me, working in combination with Tico's almost superhuman strength and willpower. I think Tico simply wanted everyone associated with the effort to appreciate the depth of his inestimable gratitude. To be sure, He had left all of that on the canvas, but just in case we didn't understand, he also wanted to express it in words. Finally, approximately 4 years ago, I worked on a patient support program for Caistin, a drug for patients with cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis specialists across the country were submitting requests for Caistin on behalf of patients who were gravely ill. There was paperwork to be submitted and various hurdles to overcome. And in virtually every case, we were on the clock. Every player needed to do his or her part, and all of us were aware of the stakes. Our team received a letter, not an email, but a letter. Can you imagine? From an eloquent and very grateful patient I'm going to call Julia. And she wanted us to know what her efforts had meant to her. And she wrote, "I am a 24-year-old cystic fibrosis patient. I have been battling cystic fibrosis my entire life. My lung function is critically low. I am doing everything I can to sustain my lung function as long as possible. I was recently approved for Caistin and was excited to start the new medication until we started looking at the cost." Sound familiar? "Although I had some coverage, I couldn't afford the remaining balance. I would like to give an enormous thank you to you and to all those involved who have put funding in place to help cover the remaining amount. CF rarely has any good news. I am so grateful to those who developed a new medication to help with the ongoing battle. Thank you for your hard work and for the financial assistance provided so I can take this medication." 3 different stages of my career, 3 different organizations, 3 different diseases and drugs, and 3 inspirational patients. Ken and his piece of birthday cake, Tico and his painting, Julia and her letter. I have cause to think with deep gratitude of each of them. They and others like them rekindled the spark and lighted the flame. Each of you, I'm sure, have had and will have many like these 3. This is why we do what we do. Like you, I feel lucky and blessed to be part of it. So permit me to conclude by saying, once again, that I am so honored by this recognition and award and so thankful to those who made it happen. In truth, though, I view it as a tribute to the many teams of people who day after day, year after year, do what we do. And I view it, too, as a slightly indirect, but nevertheless heartfelt and sincere thank you to all of us from those we serve.